All right, welcome back. We continue the conversation here on the state of politics, state of referendum politics and the law. And we are with Senator Moses Kajwang from Homa Bay. We are with Moses Letangule, who is the former IEBC commissioner.
Thomas.
And sorry?
Thomas.
Yes, Thomas Letangule. That's the name you know.
Moses Letangule.
Yes, Moses.
Yes.
Moses Kajwang.
Oh, God. Okay, Thomas Letangule. And then Bobby Mkangi, constitutional expert, as well as Miruru Waweru, who is the chairperson of the Third Way Alliance. I want us to take a look at the feedback that you've been sending to us on Twitter as well as on SMS. On Twitter, the hashtag to use is Daybreak, and your Twitters at Citizen TV Kenya. If we have those, we can take a look at Engineer Lazaro saying that our court proposed amendment may not sail through because of a very simple thing. He didn't involve the country's big names in his idea searching. No way big teams would allow a political novice to outsmart them on their game. Oh.
All right.
Just call him a novice.
Isaac, on Twitter, you say, as Wanjiku, we need less representation. We'll be discussing that in just a little bit.
Representation, very important in the review of boundaries. Then on SMS line, we have comment from Eldred. Honorable Wandai's assertions should not be tolerated at this time and age. Let him convince Kenyans why BBI will be a better choice rather than attempting jungle law. It is such insensitivity that is causing revenue division stalemate currently happening at the bicameral parliament. So, Senator Moses Kajwang, there's something you wanted to say in concluding this topic. What was it?
I was saying that as a member of parliament sitting in the Senate of the Parliament of Kenya, I would prefer that if the county assemblies approve with the numbers required the Punguza Mzigo bill, if the matter comes to parliament, I would prefer that we deal with it head on instead of playing games with it. We look at the merits and demerits of each proposal that has been put forward by the Punguza Mzigo drafters and deal with them. And I can tell you, I like certain things that they've put in that draft bill, but there are certain things in that draft bill that is going to cause a constitutional chaos. For example, as a member of the Senate, we have always wanted the Senate to be elevated in this bicameral system.
Right.
Punguza Mzigo says Senate shall be the upper house with veto power.
Right.
And does nothing to change the functions of Parliament. Articles 94, 95, 96, from 93 to 96, does nothing to reorganize the functions that are being devolved. They say we give more money to counties, but does not affect the fourth schedule of the Constitution that apportions responsibilities between the two levels of government. So I think that they've done a fairly good diagnosis of some of the problems we face as a country, but the prescription might not be what will cure those problems. And that's why I believe that the best thing to do, and it has not been an ODM position that we frustrate this initiative. Our position has been that we discuss each and every issue that is in there when we go to the floor of the houses, at the national legislature, and at the county assemblies. I think that's a better way.
All right, for the sake of the right of reply, and since you're here, chairman of the Third Way Alliance, so how do you respond to that question about inclusivity, about amending certain things, but not working on the infrastructure that would make it successful?
If I get you, what you actually mean is, you see, the bill as it is now cannot be amended.
Correct.
There has to be debated on the merits or demerits, and if it passes now, we get the threshold at the county assemblies, then it goes to parliament. If parliament either passes it or rejects it, we'll have to go for a referendum because we are affecting the structure of the executive and the structure of the counties.
Revolution.
So it's the people who will make the decision on it, and the final decision on it. And once we pass the critical stage of the county assemblies, we will have definitely at some point to go for a referendum. One of the things that I also like to comment on is, if you listen to the reasoning of the senator here, the Senator Kajwang, they can tell you that this is why we need actually to make Senate an upper house, because his reasoning is above average. Senate has proven not to dwell on trivialities like the other lower house. But you know, Chairman,
that's okay. But what he's saying is, you make it an upper house with veto powers, but you do not change its mandate.
No, but you see, once already they have the veto powers, the National Assembly will deal with all the mandate that it already has. But now, We have amended now to give Senate to make the Senate the upper house with veto power. So Senate will always, on initiation from the public, on its own motion, review decisions of the National Assembly. There's no conflict there.
Mr. Waweru, because I'm not sure when we'll have you next year, I have to ask this question. How are you funding the Punguza Mzigo bill? Because I know just like Okoa, you are asking for budgetary allocation. How is it that you've been this far with the exercise? How or who has been funding it?
Public.
Oh, really?
Yes, we have a pay bill number 78.
So the public has been sending money to Third Way Alliance via that pay bill to fund the exercise?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
We actually even publish the accounts of the funding after the exercise.
So Kenyans should expect a statement.
Yeah, audited revenues and expenditures of
How much have you received so far?
Close to 2 million now.
2 million shillings.
And
Is
we
that
have
enough to popularize the bill?
We are doing low-cost campaigns. We drive by road. We go to the county assembly. We are not spending any money on the county assembly.
Okay.
It's only travel money.
Okay, all right. And we wish you well with that initiative, which is important to
we don't need billions
really
to do
go
this.
through a constitutional process. Now to the other constitutional process, the census is over. It was concluded on Saturday night, and now we wait for the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics to process the data and give a preliminary report on the results of the census in 3 months' time. So you're talking about which month? That is September, October, November. By December first week, we should have the results. And obviously, the number of how many we are will be quite impactful, but more specifically when it focuses on how many people we have in the counties. I look at the report of the IEBC in 2012 that you were looking at when you were a commissioner there, when you were reviewing the boundaries, and at that time we had 210 constituencies, and then you were raising it to 290. So in this review, just take us through what will be affected, as bearing in mind that already you have the 290 constituencies. So what will be affected where?
Well, the census, as you know, must always be done after 10 years.
Right.
And that's exactly what we are doing, and it's an important national exercise to determine the number of people for planning purposes. You can't plan if you don't know the numbers. So what the government is doing is very good. What then I don't know is whether using these numbers we are going into review of boundaries. If you look at the Constitution, particularly Article 89(2), it talks about review of boundaries after not less than 8 years, but not more than 12 years.
Right.
So the last review, we did it in 2012. So if we take the maximum, which is 12 years, then the next review, the last review should be done in 2024.
Right.
My take is review is very divisive. I remember personally going through, I was in charge of Central Region, to Laikipia and all the way to Isiolo. And I went to public barazas to discuss review of boundaries. It was a very emotive issue, chairing a boundaries committee meeting. I personally also presided over a review of boundaries in the entire country. I chaired the committee on boundaries. And it was a very taxing issue, very emotive, because every person is saying, please give us a constituency here. Give us a ward here. Give us virtually everywhere. If you look even now at the provisional level, the national government, there are always demands for location, for my brothers, you will agree. So it's a very emotive issue for Kenyans, for boundaries. Now, if you look at the Constitution saying you review not less than 8 years, not more than 12 years.
Right.
They've given a period. And I think going to 2022, my own advice, please let's not touch boundaries.
We don't just touch boundaries, but nevertheless, as a curious citizen, take me through the criteria of delimitation of boundaries. Take me through that.
Yes. 88 sets out the criteria. It says consider population, consider area, demographies and geographical area.
The geography of a region.
Yeah, I mean, there are certain areas. If you go to, for example, let me give this constituency in Marsabit. Is it called what? The one with the desert. It is bigger than Central Kenya combined. Yeah. Notor is a constituency, but the whole area is bigger than the entire of Central Kenya. So it's a very huge area, but with low population density, and that's why our constitution in Article 89 gives population as the criteria. That's why, and the debate is here now, Zinzi. and I want to educate you and young people like you, that right now the debate is, why should Lamu, with a low population of I don't know how many people, have one senator, compare with our brother here, Kajong, with double numbers.
When it comes to resources, those same people will not also get the same equal measure as well. Lamu being our example, the residents, the voters of Lamu also believe that as much as they may be few, they also have the right to resources.
Exactly. That is the debate. And so we must balance between a large area like Turkana. Turkana, example, is a very huge county. Huge, very huge county. Yet they only have one member. Why? Because their numbers are also few.
Right.
But the geographical area is bigger. It's bigger.
Right.
And why should Viga, Viga and central and western Kenya counties, very small, you know, in terms of territory, but with large populations. So that debate must be done with a sober mind so that we balance. We can't deny people representation because they are few, yet they have large areas.
And Bobby, this is the example why as Kenyans we need to be involved. So public interest, public sensitization around it. Why is it so important, and how can the public be involved in this discussion as well? How can Wanjiku be involved in this?
I think one of the ways is, as the good commissioner said, I mean, such discussions and the debate emanating, and especially this early enough, because it also gives us indication as to when the ideal time to have it. Too close to an election, then it becomes chaotic. And I think the best time would be after an election, when we don't have, you know, the pre-election dynamics playing out. But I think also this is a process that involves wananchi. It's a process that involves, as the commissioner said, they have to go down to the ground, take the views of wananchi, listen to what wananchi are saying. Yes, the criteria is set out, issues of geographical cover, issues of even communication, the terrain, population, historical and cultural antecedents of certain areas. But at the end of it all, wananchi have to give their voices. Eventually, the proposals and the decisions that IEBC will make will have come from wananchi, but guided by the criteria. So wananchi has to be involved in, especially this new age of public participation. This is an issue that definitely the voice of wananchi.
I take a look at Article 89, Sub-Article 2, that the Independent Electoral Boundaries Commission shall review the names and boundaries of constituencies at intervals of not less than 8 and not more than 12 years. But any review shall be completed at least 12 months before general election of members of parliament. But then Sub-Article 4 says that if a general election is to be held within 12 months after the completion of a review by the commission, the new boundaries shall not take effect for purposes of that election. So we can almost comfortably say, because this process has not begun, the review will not affect the election of 2022. But even then, so in 2012, I want to expand the conversation to the rest of it. 2012, IEBC came up with a list of 27 constituencies that they were saying protected constituencies because they were falling below what they call the population quota. Instances of is it Changamo thereabouts?
Mongojo.
Even Lamu, I think even Mwadikir.
Yes. So with that happening at that time, is it still protected in the coming review, or it will now have to be rationalized across the country?
It's subject to the next delimitation. And the reality on the ground is this. Delimitation is a very involving exercise. It is a job done by the IEBC. You know, unlike the referendum where these guys have done all the legwork, IEBC is just to submit to county assemblies. Delimitation, the commissioners must be personally involved. And as Letanguli has said, they broke out into teams, one commissioner leading a team in a county or in a province. IEBC currently has 3 commissioners. It is not capable of conducting a delimitation exercise at this time. So even if today was day 0, it is not capable in its current form to carry out a delimitation exercise. I think the safest thing to do is, because the Constitution gives us between 8 years and 12 years, let us have this conversation and ask ourselves, should we do the delimitation immediately after the next general election? Because a lot of things also would have come to pass. Yes. For example, if the Punguza Mzigo initiative succeeds, I'm just saying, for example, for purposes of argument, or BBI. So we are moving from 290 constituencies to 47 constituencies. That will guide how the delimitation shall be done. If the BBI initiative goes through, and we are talking about maybe, amalgamation of wards, or we are talking about regional governments, even though counties is not part of this, is not part of this delimitation. So let's first deal with our constitutional order arrangement, and then we deal with the delimitation once we have figured out the kind of constitutional architecture that we want to use as a country.
So
I think that would be the safest way.
What I'm getting is that it's not a question of if we have to do the boundaries review, it's when. And according to what Bobby is saying, after an election will be a bit better.
Yes.
So if we were to look at limitation of any boundaries, it would have to be after 2020.
We are saying, because our constitution currently in Article 89 gives us a leeway between 8 to 12 years, and the 12 years is long after the next election, we are safer not touching boundaries now.
No.
Okay. As a country, let's do the censuses we have done. Let's look at the numbers. Let the National Treasury budget, whatever it is, but kindly, let us leave the boundaries for now. We are having so many other problems.
Well, do you agree that if Punguza bill does go through, then the delimitation of boundaries will have to wait for 2022?
We only have 47 constituencies. So, and we are removing in the constitution, we have amended Article 89, so that IEBC will only be delimiting the wards, but not constituencies. Because IEBC doesn't have power to delimit counties now. So we only remain with 47 counties.
Okay.
What we are looking at as third way is about quality representation as opposed to quantitative.
So at the ward level?
Yeah, both at the constituency and the county and the ward level. Because there is no proof that a person who represents many people brings better content for in parliament. You may like in the last 6 years, since we started the parliament under the devolved system, we have not seen major pro-people bills coming from the National Assembly, which are important. In fact, as we are talking, the National Assembly is busy sabotaging counties. And all constituencies are in the counties. But now, the members of parliament are busy fighting their own people at the counties. They are delaying money. Counties are almost shutting down.
In the name of representing
that is not qualitative representation. It's actually destructive.
Okay. You know where we got it from is when we mixed up representation and development. This thing called CDF, it's causing us a lot of problems, and that's why people want to hold on to their constituencies, because there's some 2.5% that flows directly into those constituencies. We must let constituencies to remain units of representation rather than units of development, so that the units of development becomes the counties and the wards. Then the members of the National Assembly represent the will of the people sitting in those constituencies, not building schools, not building roads, not drilling boreholes. We started by talking about how Ken Okoth built schools. That is not the ideal work of a member of parliament. It is representation, legislation, and oversight. Development should be a function of the executive at the national and county government levels. And that's why I don't think that by reducing the level of representation will be getting a solution. People need to be represented, but we need to reduce the levels of implementation. For development.
I need us to take a short break. When we return, we'll be taking your views on that, as well as what Kenyans are saying online in as far as the census and how that will impact the boundaries review is concerned. Do stay tuned. You can text us your views on 22422 or tweet us at Citizen TV Kenya. The hashtag to use is Daybreak.